people with questions out there. We're taking yours to a financial planner. We say the show's all about you. We got a lot of questions for our guy, Dan Casey. That's coming up next. We'll be right back. It is People, Power, and Politics. Welcome back to Detroit's only nightly political talk show. Joining us now to answer your political questions and talk about the economy, Dan Casey with Bridge River Advisors. It's good to see you, Dan. Thanks for joining us here at the Pulse. You know, I love it when we have viewers who take us down the road of the conversation because you have so many great questions. And many of you asked me, hey, ask Dan this question. So you're getting free financial planning today, which is good. We begin with Shar. Thanks for your question here on the Pulse tonight, Shar. We appreciate you writing in. You're asking, is there any way to plan for the future to protect your family's savings? You know, with all this uncertainty, what is the answer to that question?
What makes that a great question is protect it from what? So I could protect it from stock market losses. Let's throw it all in cash. But you're not protecting it from inflation. All right, so you can't protect it from inflation. Let's throw it in the stock market. That gets the best growth. Well, now your principal could be lost significantly, right? So it really goes back to what are we saving for exactly? Give me the time frame, give me what portions of that money you need and when, and then we can divide it into the necessary buckets so we can get cash and we can get some safety, we can get some growth, we can get a lot of mix it all together.
That's really, so it's different for everybody. It depends on what their goal is, right?
Yeah.
The next question is coming from Kathleen. Kathleen, thanks for writing in on the Pulse here tonight. What are the pros and cons of putting money in bank CDs versus investing in the market, whether it be stocks, bonds, mutual funds, etc.? This is a good one.
Another good one, yes. So, and this is now, I get this question a lot because CD rates are so high now because the Federal Reserve raised rates. So, but what we're finding is like the CDs right now are paying, 5%, maybe 5%. But so is money markets, which is super liquid, super safe. So why would you just not put your money in a super safe, liquid money market and not lock your money up into a CD? But again, it does go back to, that's great and all, but if you need growth, you're certainly not getting it in a money market or a CD. So it's a matter of just blending the proper investment so you get the right ups and downs and the right growth and the right liquidity.
And right meaning where you are, because if you're near retirement, you want one thing. If you're, I'm 48 years old, it's going to be different for me than someone who's 60.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Just depends on what people
are. The retirement red zone. If you're like within 5 years of retirement, you've got to start doing some shifting.
I hope I'm way up. That's the goal.
We all do.
All right, Adam, we thank you for your question here. How will the tariffs affect investments in 401ks as well as prices at the store? How can the average American plan for this? This is fascinating because a lot of people, they follow the headlines briefly. Like there's certain tariffs that they talked about but that aren't in effect yet.
Yes.
But how should people prepare for these?
So it's interesting. So the last cargo ships are coming in from pre-tariff. So we probably got another maybe, I don't know, 6 weeks, maybe 7 weeks, and then I think we're going to start seeing some issues with supply, maybe some empty shelves, right? So so we're going to temporarily definitely get some inflation spikes, and how it helps or hurts the corporations is that could hit their profits, which could start hitting our 401ks and our investments. So it'll be an interesting up and down. Short term it's going to be worst case, and we'll see how it pans out in the long term.
And a lot of people are saying, okay, you know what, with these cargo ships coming in with new prices kind of on them, maybe it's time for me to go out and buy things that I need.
Yes.
So you go back to school shopping, so to speak, way earlier than you would otherwise, right? Is that a good idea?
Yeah, if you need it, get it now, because you just don't know what the prices are going to be. So we are seeing a lot of people, pull forwarding their investments, whether it's a car or pencils for school, for sure.
It's so smart that you see certain companies, a furniture company that's saying, hey, we have a tariff-free week or a tariff-free sale or what have you. That's a really smart way to look at people like Adam and say, hey, what are we doing here? Yeah. Hey, Jim, we have a question for you. Want to answer your question with Dan Casey here on the Pulse, and we thank you for writing us in today. Here's your question. Very large companies seem to have more resources, geographic diversity, and political clout to deal with tariffs than small companies. Should we adjust our portfolio to overweight larger companies? That's a really good one.
It's a really good one. Normally, I would say yes. However, we're in this weird situation where I would want to also be in small and mid cap, because as the Federal Reserve cuts rates, those companies have variable debt loans. So they're going to start saving a lot of money when the Federal Reserve cuts rates. So I should see a rise in those companies. So really not overweighting necessarily in large companies makes sense right now.
And then let's talk for a moment about the politics of this, because this is a political talk show. And we know that this is a president who uses tariffs as a negotiation tool. Yet at the same time, it affects our bottom line. So that's a hard dance to follow here.
It really is. And that's half the time, my day is talking people off the cliff from people wanting to, get out of the market, or what. It is so difficult. It's just, again, in the short term, we just have to stay strong. We can't act on emotions, and we have to stay in. Because as soon as we get that headline about China, and maybe we have a deal, stock market can be off.
Well, we know that Shar, Kathleen, Adam, and Jim had great questions, but I want to ask you, what's the number one question that you get from people who come to your office right away?
Yeah, probably the number one question is, do I have enough money to last my retirement? That's the number one question. So, and again, it goes back to our first question, just having the right assets in the right bucket, so we can get safety, we can get some growth, and we can get some liquidity for income.
No one wants to outlive their money, but it's a fear that so many people have, especially when there's uncertainty out there. But we're going to follow the headlines as we do every night on this show. We're going to have Dan back as well. You'll come back again?
Absolutely.
It was a good experience for you? You'll come back on the Pulse?
Absolutely.
Great.
Great questions.
We'll have you back. Great questions. If you have a question, you can always let us know. In fact, that is the Pulse for tonight, but you can always send us your political questions or any kind of question you want answered or a fact check you'd like to see. Just go to this email, thepulse@fox.com. You'll see that right over there. You can also scan the QR code to auto-launch your email on your phone. I'm Roop Raj. It was good to be with you. As always, have a good night. Thank you, Dan.
Awesome.